Hello there. Be in no doubt that the next big constitutional struggle after Brexit will be that of saving the United Kingdom. Firstly, please subscribe and like this video to give my channel a boost. And I'm always uploading new content, so please do check back daily. And a big thanks to my Patreon and PayPal supporters. It will, in the next few months, become more and more recognised that the Brexit battle is morphing into a constitutional struggle to keep the four nations of the United Kingdom together. And it seems that the Prime Minister and his advisers have recognised this developing problem. The FT reports that the UK government is going to launch a union task force to make the case for the UK. Now, as this news comes hard on the heels of the Prime Minister blurting out in a teleconference with MPs that devolution had been a disaster, many are assuming this union task force is a sticking plaster to cover his leaked misspeaking. But I'm hoping that he agrees with me that the union is under pressure and needs some severe shoring up, especially as some polls in Scotland are showing a growing majority for Scottish independence. Now, according to the FT article, this new union task force will feature Tory MPs from England, Scotland and Wales making a positive case for the UK and reporting direct to Number 10. And the FT's Sebastian Payne tweeted, "Boris Johnson to launch new union task force to make the social and culture case for the United Kingdom after a series of gaffes and missteps. Number 10 Union Task Force launching in weeks will include Tory MPs from England, Scotland and Wales. Government insiders confirm the Union Task Force will seek to make the emotional case for the UK in England as well as Scotland. Number 10 acutely aware the argument has to go beyond the economic case, that the union is better for all involved." As part of the pro-union drive, some of Number 10's new televised press briefings, set to begin in the new year under the auspices of Press Secretary Allegra Stratton, will be broadcast from the devolved nations. And he quoted one unnamed senior Scottish Tory as saying, "We have to make sure the union is at the heart of everything we do. Every policy needs to have a Union Jack emblazoned on it." And another so-called well-placed Tory saying of the recently ousted advisor Dominic Cummings, "He never cared about the union. Tonally, he's an English nationalist." And in PMQs today, both the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, and the leader of the SNP in Westminster, Ian Blackford, took potshots at the Prime Minister for his recent talk of devolution in Scotland being a disaster. But one of the statements from Starmer will have the English nationalists sitting up and taking notice, because he was referring to regional devolution within England, and many nationalists believe this is just a way of making sure England can never be a force in its own right, by effectively putting the block on an English parliament. Now, Boris seems to have realised that some waving and sticking of the union flag everywhere and telling people that all the money came from the UK is unlikely to be enough to swing the populace behind the union, especially in Scotland. After all, it didn't work where the EU referendum was concerned. EU flags on every building, and when the EU returned some of our cash to us and told us what to spend it on, they added insult to injury by forcing us to stick the EU flag on it too. So how would that possibly work in the UK? Personally, I think the Scots would view that with the same contempt as Brexiteers viewed the claims that UK taxpayers' money was somehow EU money from a magic EU money tree. And before anyone blames all this nationalism on Brexit, that is an erroneous assumption. Any division we had in the UK started widening from the moment we entered the European Union in the early 1970s. And as far as I can see, it was our EU membership that would eventually have given the SNP their route out of the UK and into the EU. Without it, Scottish independence becomes that much harder. But the real problem for those that wish to keep the Union together is how do you overcome 4 or more decades of those in power actively doing the country down? How do we overcome decades of educationalists teaching our children to despise their country and heritage, that the only way forward is to disown their past? How do we overcome the constant brainwashing that UK culture does not exist, that the only thing we're famous for is roast beef on a Sunday and football hooliganism? How do we overcome the lies that just about every monument and street name in the UK has connotations of a totalitarian imperialistic past? How do we overcome the fact that supporters of only 3 of the 4 countries in the UK can wave their flags with pride, while the other, the majority, is expected to slink away and bury its standard in shame? And how do we get those pro-EU zealots to realise that they are generally far more nationalistic about the EU than the rest of us are about the UK or their own region within it? And yes, waving the EU flag and loudly declaring you are European is as nationalistic as declaring you are Irish or Namibian or Cuban or English. You only have to look at the likes of that arch-federalist Guy Verhofstadt to recognise that. Now, those who wanted to shoehorn the UK into the EU had to achieve several things, such as they had to completely reset the UK legal system so that the supremacy of Parliament was demolished and subjugated to the ECJ. They had to teach our kids that the country they lived in was small and insignificant and could only ever function as a bit-part player in the marvellous EU. And they had to split the UK up into EU regions for ease of administration, as well as encourage the freedom of movement of people in the hope they'll lose their affinity to their country of birth. And the tentacles of the EU propaganda machine were installed at every level of every UK institution over those 4 or so decades. Those tentacles are still there for the most part, and their echo will resonate around Westminster and Holyrood for many years to come. And worse, there will be a small minority within the works who will work tirelessly to undermine the UK if they get the chance. And it is this decades-long erosion of respect and, yes, love for our country that has been so damaging to us as a nation. When you take a step back and take stock, you suddenly realise that on a UK-wide basis, to many people there are only 3 things in the UK that you are allowed to be proud of. 1. The time of our EU membership. 2. The NHS. And 3. Taking a knee while climate protesting. That's it. Everything else has been tarred and feathered in the pursuit of dismantling the UK as an entity, including the memory of those who sacrificed their lives for us. And now even our police services enforce the law selectively on that basis. And now our once revered universities have found themselves hoist by their own petard of teaching an anti-UK form of history, and now find their centuries ago previous patrons under attack, as well as demands that UK history be expunged from the curriculum and reparations be paid. No wonder our politicians go around waxing lyrical about the NHS all day. They're not allowed to praise much else about the UK, are they? So the big question is, how do we reverse this, to the point that all who live here burst with pride in this nation, both those who were born here and those who choose to live here? And I'm not sure that a task force wandering the devolved regions telling them how lucky they are to be in the UK will cut it. Nor will following a small Westminster bubble elite in making great plans for the country, the so-called Build Back Better, and bulldozing them through without actually talking to ordinary people first. Brits don't take to technocracy too well. For me, one of the first things we need to do is to immediately stop allowing people to tarnish or rewrite our history. And we must stop covering ourselves in sackcloth and ashes every time someone gets offended with our culture. A lot of us get offended when some ambulance-chasing lawyer succeeds in pulling another convicted criminal off a plane to enjoy permanent residence here. but we're expected to accept it and to live with being offended by it, aren't we? At the end of the day, though, I think it would be a longer and harder slog to reverse the damage caused by the anti-UK rabble than most people think. Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it by following the link in the descriptions box below and support me on Patreon or PayPal. So, do you believe in the UK? If so, what do we need to do to make the union stronger? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.